And together with the guests that I have this morning, we'll look at those stories that we have touched on, and importantly also the papers, as we delve deeper into picking up on the key ones that we have. Of course, definitely we do not fail to discuss the political terrains that Right Honorable Raila Odinga is taking, and whether they will be very instrumental for him to make changes. Away from that, we do not fail to speak about matters education that are crucial at that point when we're having this discussion as to teachers, just trying to go for more classes to make sure that they are well positioned. That, as said by the TSC, something that equally is being challenged by members of parliament. We also discuss more on what the papers detail. So karibu sana, and the guests of the day, Maimuna Mwidau, who's a political analyst. Good to have you, ma'am. After a very long time. Oh, we've really searched for her, really, but we're honored to have you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. Even the time that we were in Mombasa, we tried getting a hold of you in vain.
It's been busy.
It's been busy.
It's been busy, yeah.
But we're glad that you're here.
Yes.
And as always, Muhesh is here with us, Honorable Anthony Ikonya, the Member of County Assembly of Kiambu Township. It's a pleasure to have you once again.
Thank you. Good morning.
You well?
I'm fine, thank
Lala
you.
Salama?
Salama. It's good to wake up again in the bush.
I agree.
It's a beautiful place.
Oh, it's really beautiful.
It's a really beautiful place. So we're charged, we're ready for the day. Yes.
The worst I've gotten is a bee sting. As, this morning, actually, when I was reading news, but not too bad.
Bees look for nectar or anything sweet. I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. All right, it's good to have you. As we look at the paper, so much is happening politically, and I mean, we understand how crucial politics is in terms of shaping the nation. But even as we talk of this, terrains of politics, we do not fail to speak about the other things that, again, are hugely informed us, by what it is that we will do politically. And so we look at the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation and the People Daily. We start off with the Standard newspaper. Let's pick this one on page 28. CBK warns of tough times ahead. Is this surprising? We probably didn't expect anything better anyway, Maimuna.
Linda, that is not surprising. We've been through a year almost of COVID. The economy has not been doing well, and our politics has not been as stable. So CPK saying we are looking forward to hard times. We need to actually try to start organizing ourselves and prepare ourselves, because we're also going to an election. So combine all those issues, definitely it's going to be a tough run for the country for the next year or two until we stabilize. And maybe when we have a new government and new policies in place to reorganize ourselves. Tough times are here, and they're here to stay. And say that globally, for us to go back to where we were at least before COVID-19, it will be somewhere around 2024. I don't know how different it will be for us who are headed for an election, and normally we understand how costly our elections can be. The likes of Tanzania do not appear to struggle as such. After Magufuli then came in Mama seems to be doing so well, according to what it is that they say. And we're not receiving much of complaints from Tanzania in comparison to us and the rest of the other African countries. What is this one thing that they're doing differently, and what will it take for us to stay afloat? Are there chances that, like the global fraternity in 2024 will be back to where we were?
No, to me, I think we need to have our priorities right. Once we have our priorities right, then we'll be in the right trajectory. Because if you look at what is happening, and most so I sympathize with counties, when the national government complains that there's going to be a hard time, that trickles down to the counties.
Oh, yes.
Because that is what informs the exchequer releases to counties. So that tells you it's going to be very hard for counties, and mostly when it comes to projects. So we may not be seeing new projects, in the year. So we may not be able to procure for new projects, because if there's no money, then you cannot procure. So I think it's going to be a hard time. But what you need to do as a country, one, we have to look at how to revamp our economy in terms of from down there, as I always say.
Yeah.
We need to see what is it that we're going to do to make sure that the small businesses that were alive before COVID, we are able to be revamped. We need to pump the little that we have into those businesses so that we wake them up, and then the economy starts running from that point. So I think it's what we do as a country and as counties that will determine whether by 2024 we'll get there. So we need to look at our own source of revenue, especially in counties, see that we're able to. But again, you see, it's difficult because where you get your taxes from is from those people, Mambogas and those people down there whose businesses are not doing well, the Kinyozis and what have you. So I think we really need to get into farming, a lot of it. Let's look at irrigation. Let's look at manufacturing. The big four, what we were talking about, the big four. Let's get into that. Let's do serious housing so that we bring as many people on board and enroll them and they're able to get something at the end of the day. So I think it's about our priorities. Because I think what happened is that we shifted our priorities some few years ago into some funny, stories of BBI and what have you. And then at that point, that is where we lost it, a voice to do.
Oh, yeah?
So I think we need to get our focus back to the things that will make this country grow.
Maimuna, you buy into that argument that we lost it at the level of BBI and all the politicking that happened. I would want to say that I've been here, not really long enough, but here to say that, well, the times were tough even before the conversation of BBI. And one then would be tempted to ask, whatever Mheshimiwa proposes is really, really important. But anyway, we have had the best of proposals, sheer talk. The aspect of implementation has been a factor that we probably have not been able to achieve. Even worse, there's never that goodwill. So when we're speaking about going back to, reviving the conversation on the likes of the Big Four agenda, just how realistic is that? I mean, how much time does President Uhuru Kenyatta have in terms of implementing this?
First and foremost, the president doesn't have much time. He is almost at the tail end of his term, and there's very little he can do in terms of policy, in terms of implementation. But let's go back to your question on why Tanzania is not complaining and we are just neighbors. Is Mama doing anything right? What Tanzania has done is managing a transition. From the late Magufuli to Mama Suluhu. That managing that transition reduces conflict in the political class. So the government is now able to focus on the economy, and that's what Samia Suluhu has been doing. Samia Suluhu has been traveling to each and every country, signing agreements. Donors are visiting her, and the country is moving towards a different economic status. So what we have failed in our country, and we need to appreciate and say it the way it is, that we have been having internal political conflicts for a very long period of time. So even BBI was trying also to solve some of those political conflicts and bring in new ideas. But it's rather almost late in the day. However, we managed to get some semblance of peace. And that, if it had started from the beginning, maybe we would have been focusing on what Mheshimiwa is talking about, on the economy. But the drought has been here with us again, so it has hit us pretty badly. But looking at the Big Four need time to be implemented. We are almost on the eve of a general election. We need to manage our transition. Once we manage our transition well politically, then we will be able to sit down and focus on what needs to be achieved in the next 5 years. So I think managing a transition is the most important thing because it stabilizes a country and then we're able to focus forward. Politics in Kenya is not a wedding process. It's very, I'm trying to get the right word, it destabilizes a lot of issues. And it seems to be a continuous process. This needs to stop. We need to do our politics, finish with the politics, fold up, and focus now on the economy. Build up the economy so that we are able to develop like other countries in the neighborhood. Tanzania was nowhere close to Kenya. Today, Tanzania is ahead of Kenya because a leader came in, Honorable Magufuli, the late, and he restructured the whole country. It was not an easy process. It was a painful process for a lot of people. But he needed to do that to set the pace. Once he did that, and God forbid, presidents do die because they are human beings. He did his bit and left. And Mama Samia Suluhu got an easy ride in to continue the same process that Magufuli put forward. So we need to do that in Kenya. We need to totally break down everything and reorganize ourselves. We are having corruption issues. We are having mega corruptions that we've not dealt with. If that money was to be reversed back into our economy, we would be doing wonders in this country in a very short period of time. And that's exactly what Magufuli did. A very, very painful process. But it's needed. It's a surgery that must be done for us to heal and move forward.
Well, Mahesh, picking it from there, and maybe just briefly before we take a quick breather, we have seen many castigating the bottoms-up approach, and we probably do not intend to castigate that. But just comparing it to what Maimuna speaks of, and you know, the radical approach that Magufuli had to take, a radical approach that got him having enemies even in the global fraternity, a radical approach that, you know what, called for him locking down or locking out investors from coming into the country because they said, you know what benefits do we get from, you know, having these investors coming in? Radical one to a point of telling Chinese, you know what, you're not going to penetrate and expect the way, you know, that we're going to be happy with you the way other African leaders are. I mean, do you suppose that approach that the bottoms-up approach is bringing on board is one that, you know, would be radical enough, would be good enough, would be strong enough to resuscitate the economy, reeling as it is? And we understand the importance of SMEs, you know, in boosting the economy. But do you suppose that that one angle is the ultimate angle?
I think we're looking at two things here. Just like Madam Maimuna here said, you may have very good policies, but the implementers of those policies determines to what extent you go with those policies. We're talking about probably we having economic models by anyone who's running for presidency. But the thing is, would they be radical enough to make sure that they roll out, you know, those policies? That is where you know it begins. You may have the bottoms-up approach. Raila has come with he's going to continue with the Vision 2030. The question is, would you be radical enough to do what it takes? So it is about leadership. So I want to face Kenyans at this point in time and tell them, no, we need to be very sober this time round as we go to the election period. Because we're still being treated to TRRs and T-beams and whatever and all those things. I think we need to sober up right now and know that we have been messed up by COVID. The economy was not doing well even before. So we need to recover as quick as we can. How do we recover? It's by getting the right radical leaders to just go and do what it takes. So this is not the time for rhetorics and there's so many, you know, campaign slogans and whatever, and that we all applaud and sing along. So it's time that we sit down and critically analyze the leaders that we assign to power. So that is where the radicalness will come from. Well, that is why Tanzania are proud to have Gore Magufuli, you know, and then he was radical and they loved him, they re-elected him because they knew he was taking them somewhere, you know. So his mama also doing a very nice job. So I think it's about the leaders that we put in place. It's about the leaders that we elect that determines any policy that, and you see, even when you talk of transition, talk of the Big Four, for example, is a policy and agenda within government. So whether the president is going, systems are still running, you know, ministries are still there, you know, nothing in government has stopped. It's only that there is a transition between one government and the other. So we need to have policies that are so well put that it doesn't matter who is in office or whether it's a transitioning period, things continue, you know, roads continue being done, you know, bridges continue being put up, because those are things that are put, budgeted for, and you know, the systems will just keep them rolling, yes, irrespective of whether there is an election or not.
All right.
Listen, now in Kenya,
allow us to take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we come back on that very note. We still have like a whole hour up until 8 a.m. And so we'll expound hugely on this. So we take that quick break and we come back with more. It's the dream of every rent-payer, if there's such a statement, or, you know, every tenant to own a home. And so if you've ever thought of this and you're probably thinking, well, maybe I don't have enough money as it now, and so I have to wait until that time when I have enough money. Long gone are those days, because then we have great arrangements that are being presented by, you know, people who are in the construction company, in the real estate entity, you know, people like Pacific Realty Investments. And Pacific Realty Investments, the people who have sponsored our trip to Tsavo East, are coming in to make sure that they are those great partners that you can partner with to get to own a home. They say at Pacific Realty, they transform rent payers to home owners. It's so simple. You get to reach them out on 0722 111 816 and tell them why it is that you want to own a home. What is the purpose? Is it one that you want to retire to? Is it one that you want to set up as an investment and you can always generate revenue from? And they'll give you options of how you can do this, you know, at the most affordable rates ever. So check them out and get to enjoy the best of this. Remember, we also are sitting at the Voi Safari Lodge, and you can as well make bookings if at this moment you feel like you'd want to go and, you know, just tour the Tsavo East, have a game drive all across the Tsavo East National Park. Then you can sleep at the Voi Safari Lodge. 0794 671609 is how you can make bookings. Call them out and, you know, just get to see how best you can they can make arrangements for you, how best you can come and enjoy the Tsavo National Park, that is Tsavo East National Park, as you also get to have a nice stay at the Voi Safari Lodge. So those are the people that have, you know, contributed to our trip all the way here as we celebrate Tourism Week. The Kenya Safari Lodges and Hotels has done this, has made it possible, and for that reason we are thankful. Still on matters politics and still on the current affairs right here in the country. And of course, I am having this conversation with the guests of the day. Maimuna Mwidau is with us this morning, and equally Anthony Ikonya, as we expound some more on what needs to be done. This upon this report that is coming from a CBK warning us that we should brace ourselves for tough times ahead. How tough can times be? Are we, or have we gotten to levels where, you know, we're actually used to this? Because it's never been rosy. Someone, you know, wrote a meme that was making rounds on social media saying that even the locusts decided to slowly go away from Kenya because the cost of living is extremely high for them. They can't even manage. Mahesh, I cut you short.
Yes. No, I was winding up by saying we need to embrace our culture as Kenyans, and I'm glad that we are slowly going there. And we discussed about that yesterday. Political tolerance. You see, when a country is known for political tolerance, that you can be a richer that during campaign times and during elections time, even investors will have the confidence to still continue investing alongside elections and what have you. But what is reputed for Kenya is that you're known to be violent, and, you know, you can't actually tell what is going to happen. So what that will do is that from now, that is going to scare you know, investors. So I think also as Kenyans we need to embrace that culture of tolerance. I am glad that I can now see Ruto do Migori, I can see Raila do Nyeri, Kiamu, all those places. That tolerance is very important, and once we mature politically and we get to that point, I think that is also going to get a long way. But I'm also concerned by when the government is telling us and that we're going to brace tough times. The question is, what is it that the government is doing to caution Kenyans? You know, because that is fundamental. Look at the prices of fuel, for example, right now, and you see they have direct, you know, involvement in that. You know, the registrators, you know, are managed by these politicians. You know, everybody has his lot of registrators who you can rub into Parliament to look at some of these things. So I think in as much as we're going to get into hard times, we also need to look at the many ways that we can, as Kenyans or its government, cushion our people, so that we only need to bend a little bit, and then the hard times will pass over us, and then we will continue as a nation. So we need to look at so many things. Yes, there are going to be hard times. What is it that we're going to do? Yes.
And true to it, Maimuna, we are asking ourselves, I mean, most of the governments, well, of the bigger brothers, have done well in terms of cushioning their citizens, you know, and while it could be tough for them, at least they had derived mechanisms of, you know, just making sure that they stay afloat in such moments. What are the lessons we pick, especially at this point of COVID-19, as opposed to government, you know, going there to sell fear to us, that maybe they should, you know, incorporate, they should adapt to make sure that even in future we're able to stay afloat in such occurrences?
Linda, I think we need to go back as to how we do our politics. Governments normally plan for a period of 5 years, 10 years, and we already had Vision 2030. So we had a roadmap of what we needed to achieve. And we can thank President Kibaki for having focused on what he needed to achieve, and quite a lot was achieved at that period of time. And then, of course, when we were not again able to manage our transition and continue with what Kibaki had achieved, we went into a rampage of getting loans from all over the world. Now that has had an impact on what else could we have done? Because this is an agricultural country. We needed to invest into that area. We needed to think about what if there was drought? What are the plans that we would put in place to counter that? What if we had floods? And you know, when people talk about drought and think like, oh, maybe because of drought we could not produce a lot. Israel is a desert.
Yep.
They use technology to continue producing in the desert for 12 months. So we need to shift in the way we think. in the way we do things. If there was COVID, there were people now not going to work, they were working from home. People who own land are actually now farming. I belong to a group of women who are professionals. Everybody has a small farm somewhere, and they've realized they're able to actually do something and manage. Why can't Kenyans think and say, okay, we need to focus on certain things, other things, apart from the usual day-to-day job? You can do something else. Tanzania has excellent opportunity to feed almost the whole of the region because they have focused on the agriculture. They did not focus on just putting up roads without having a farm with maize somewhere.
Okay.
So I think those are some of the issues that the country needed to plan on instead of focusing only on specific areas. Yes, we can have huge roads, highways, but if there is no truck to take beans from the farm to the market, then we have done something wrong. And again, we have lost a lot of time in this squabbling, that we no longer are thinking of building up this nation in terms of agriculture, in terms of other sectors. When we talk about creating employment, you cannot tell the young people that we'll create more jobs from where. You need to create an enabling environment, economic environment, so that they can be creative enough to create jobs for themselves and others. That is how you build a nation. By increasing taxes, you do not develop a nation. You make it even more poorer. We are one of the highly taxed countries, yet we cannot even get free education up to university. We cannot get subsidies for those who are not employed. We're not a welfare society in terms of systems, but we can create that. Other nations were created that way. But you must have that environment where young people can actually realize some of their dreams and build the economy that way. But the way we are going, those hard times are going to be true. And when there are hard times, the society is unstable. So we need to rethink what are we transitioning into? What kind of a person do we need to take us to the next level in a more positive manner, in a very aggressive manner that may actually destabilize some, but in the long run, it may bring prosperity to the nation.
I mean, I don't want to say
a little bit on what she said.
Yes.
She said a very interesting thing. We need, rather, to wrap it up, she has said everybody needs to adjust, all right? Let me also talk to Kenyans and tell them, when you talk of hard times, the trickle effect is to everybody. As a housewife, when you talk of hard times coming, do not expect that hard times are going to come to other families and not your family. So you must as well be able to adjust and know whatever brand of anything that you take, there is a lesser brand that is equally the same that you can take when hard times come. Because that is what has caused havoc. That is why there is killing everywhere. Because some people are legit. You still want to have the kind of life that you want to you used to have. But times are bad. Where your husband was earning and getting a few coins, probably that business has come down. So you don't understand that. Your kids as well, you need to still have the same kind of life that you used to give them. We need to adjust. All of us need to adjust in one way or the other. So we need to realize that hard times hit everybody. The brand of what you take, there is a lesser brand that is equally good but saves you some money. There is a cheaper house that can still accommodate you and still save something, so that you, as she says, you put that in a farm somewhere that you own, and then you're able to produce food and that kind of thing. So we need to look around and see when times get hard, we also need to adjust. Because when times will be good, we'll also adjust upwards. So we need to have, that flexibility of adjusting, because that rigidity is what is taking so many of our own to the grave. So that you hate to refuse that you can no longer fuel your guzzler. So, but there's a lesser car that has a better consumption, probably of the same, horsepower and that kind of thing. But you don't want to move from a Mercedes to a Toyota Premium, that kind of thing. That rigidity is taking so many people to the grave. So let's adjust accordingly, and let's know that we have tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to be better. So when tomorrow finds us, we're still going to drive the V8 and whatever.
Well said.
And to add that, Linda, I'll give you a very good example of the group of women that we formed a team. These are lawyers, doctors, and what have you. When COVID hit, nobody was going to the market. And people are not going anywhere. They were just stuck at home. Now they needed to readjust and find that piece of land they had somewhere, invest in it, And then if you're not going to the market, then the market comes to you.
Right.
So we started selling online in this group. Somebody had honey, another one had onions, and we started now utilizing border because you are readjusting using other means. So we were always talking about, oh, who has onions for this season? And somebody, oh, I mean, Kajiado, actually I have about a few tons. And then because we have networks and we say, okay, somebody has this many and this is how much it cost. Somebody has rice, and we were able to transact across the country.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
small quantities, but because you're a lawyer, you're no longer going to work. You're actually selling onions.
Right.
Because people need to eat every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we start adjusting again, because that V8 will be packed, there's no way to go with the V8. All you need is to now rethink, how do I survive? In the smallest way possible. And life goes on. If we continue with that trend, we will be creating new jobs, because now the border people had jobs to do.
Yeah.
And somebody was eating, and the market was actually moving amongst us. Not the physical market was no longer available, but the new market came up.
Right.
And that is how people have managed for the last whole year. Yeah.
All right, that's amazing. Now, we speak of economic models that have been presented by various leaders that, again, stand a huge chance of, you know, taking up the mantle of the leadership come 2022. When Mheshia says that it is pertinent and really, really important, vital for that matter, that we get a leader that would be, you know, would be looked at as a Magufuli for us to experience the changes that we are speaking of. To be honest, in the current crop of leadership that we have, do you foresee a scenario where we can get one that will be good enough? Will we need to get new faces? And what will it take for the electorate to understand that, you know, this face is the right face for that?
Linda, I don't think a new face is as important to change the dynamics of a country.
Okay.
What we need is a brave leader. Magufuli did not have the kind of face. He did not belong in the higher cadres of CCM. But people believed in him, because when he was a minister, he was a doer. He did his bit, and it was so easy to see this is what Waziri Magufuli had done. So people knew this is a change person, and that is what we need, a change person who is brave, because what Magufuli did was not only good for the people, but it was also dangerous, because it took away from those who are used to getting everything, and it gave to the masses. And that is why Magufuli did everything to make sure the Tanzanian citizen believed in what he did, because they saw it. Today, Mama Suluhu is also having a problem. Every time she makes a decision, she has to look back and say, what is the citizen saying? Will the citizen be happy with this? So she's treading carefully to make sure that she does it for the Tanzanian. So what we need, it may not necessarily be a new face, but a brave face that will be able to confront the problems we have today and take us to a new level. Who will that be? That person has to come out very clearly with a way forward that this is what I will do. Whether it's a model, top-down, bottom-up, maybe we need to come up with our own Kenyan model, or rather an African model, that will work for us. The other economic models have been there, have been used in different scenarios in different countries, but maybe we need a special model for this country to be able to solve our problems, which are very unique.
Right.
So I think it's the brevity that I'm looking at.
Right,
Who has the muscle to tumble around and literally do what Magufuli did.
Okay.
Yeah. I could agree, but you see, yes, I agree, totally agree. But look at what Kibaki did, and I would wish every leader would emulate that. You know, irrespective of what model you have, the spirit of that model is absorbed in the people, all in the people. You remember during the Kibaki times is when people in the Matatu would see a police take bribes and they'll say, no, this can't happen. You know, because that spirit was in the people. The spirit of transformation did not only exist in their leader, but it had managed to trickle down to the people. It is during Kibaki's time that people decided, if the Matatu people have decided to go on strike, we will walk to work until they get some sense. It is when the spirit of transformation gets to the people that actual transformation happens. But when the leadership spirit is right in the helm of leadership and not feared by the people. So that is why as you sell your models, as everybody sells the model, there has to be, you have to leave the spirit with the people so that people would own it and believe in it. So that as you lead them, they'll go alongside you. That is what countries that have succeeded have done, is that that spirit exists in the people. People can, without a police officer, say, this can't happen. This is not allowed. We're not going to do it this way. They can get to the house of their leader. They wake up to my house in the morning. They tell me, fine, we elected you to do this and that. You haven't done. We are not happy. Is when the spirit is in the people. So that is what we need to do. As we get to the campaigns, let your transformational agenda, that spirit, get to the people. And that way, we shall go somewhere as a country.
All right. I do not want to criticize the new appointment that goes to Ezra Chiloba, but I'd want for us to briefly touch on the same. Members of Parliament yesterday tasked the IEBC to go and explain its preparedness to take us through the poll. 2017 wasn't all rosy, and hugely the mishaps that we had were attributed to the lack of preparedness of IEBC. Today IEBC says that we are all set and ready. We got new commissioners the other day, but they always bring this aspect of the budget that in as much as we're ready and set, well, we might need adjustments on the budget, and that is adjustments upwards. That is a technical way of telling us that we are actually not ready. And so for a moment, as a people, we are worried. The IEBC does not have a CEO today. The former CEO is lucky enough to have been appointed the director of CA, Communications Authority, one of the biggest entities in the country as pertaining to matters of communication. And we speak of integrity. We speak of discipline. We speak of saying that I have questionable integrity, or at least there's allegations that I have questionable integrity, and therefore I will not take up this office until I am cleared by the courts, until the course is clear, until everybody feels like they have the confidence that I take up this challenge. What does this whole scenario speak to you?
Linda, it's very interesting. 1 year to the general election, Parliament is asking IEBC if they are prepared. That is a question they should have asked in the beginning of the term to figure out, did we give enough resources to IEBC to plan for the next 4 years? That is the question that Parliament should have been asking and making sure that they allocate the necessary resources. Our Parliament works on an ad hoc basis. When it's relevant for them, that is when they start acting up. And it's very sad because IEBC has actually conducted quite a number of elections and various by-elections for the last 4 years. What other preparedness does one want? When IEBC talks about preparedness, it's because they need resources to make sure they're able to run the general election across the country. And that is very valid. Whether they have 10 commissioners or 2 commissioners or 3 commissioners, they are able to manage. And the new commissioners that have come on board, most of them are qualified, so there will be continuity given that Chebukati is still there. Unfortunately, when you talk about integrity on leaders, I think Chiloba's position was disrupted from the politics of the day. Yeah. And now that we've had a handshake, there's been peace. So the same politics of the day has given him an appointment. So again, we are going back to where we started. A brave leader will have continuity, consistency in the way they do their work. If every few years you talk about Chebukati must go home, and then in 2 months you say, no, Chebukati can actually stay, what message does it give to the public? There's no consistency. If there was consistency throughout, then we would have been able to say, okay, this leader has been consistent and we can see his path. But we don't have consistency here. We negotiate everything. we never finish one item, we jump to the other. So and any other Kenyan would say, well, next time I can actually steal some few shillings from the government coffers and then negotiate myself an appointment somewhere.
Yeah.
What does that tell the public? We cannot trust you. You need to be trusted, as Mheshimiwa had said here. You need to be trusted. Kibaki was trusted. He never spoke much, but he did a lot. In his silence, a lot of things happened. And that is when everybody felt this is the president we were looking for. Now, we need another Kibaki, maybe with a higher agenda, to make sure that there's consistency, and then we can see the trends. We cannot be working backwards every 5 years and expect the public to believe you or expect the public to trust you. If leaders themselves cannot have an agreement and agree upon it and keep their word amongst themselves, what about the rest of the country? That tells you a lot.
You know, Mahesh here speaks of systems that are very, very important and crucial. And I think most of the bigger brothers, again, are doing so well because they have their systems right. America, in as much as you're the president, well, their systems, and in most cases you have to abide by that. What is this that Kibaki did in the very same systems that are not in order? You know, and why was it hard for him to make adjustments on the system such that even upon his exit, the next person coming on board, then he would have found systems that were good, that were working so well, and maybe take up from that. So is it really the system that fails us today?
A couple of things. One, let me weigh in on what Madam has said in terms of IBC. You know, Parliament has a relevant committee that checks the happenings and the doings of the committee probably on a daily basis. They have the powers to do that. The powers to summon commissioners and review and get to know what IBC is doing. So actually Parliament should be helping us know whether we are prepared or not. They should not be yelling out and calling IBC to come and tell us whether they are ready. There's a relevant committee in Parliament that oversees IBC and checks on, you know, the day happenings, and they ought to have known what has been happening because the committee has been in existence for 5 years. So they should be telling us we've taken them along and we know what they have done. They are now ready. So probably what is messed up is probably the budget, and we're doing this or that. So when we start making noise and saying, calling IBC to come and answer certain questions, I think that is wrong. So, be that as it may, okay, in terms of Chiroba's appointment, I want to believe that politics of the day, of course, played. Probably he got on the wrong side of politics then, and then that's why his exit is in the right side of. Because some of these appointments, Linda, do not be lied to. You know, that is why I'm telling you we have a problem with systems. I have seen one of the papers says that it was through competitive bidding. Fine, I agree. You pass through that process, you know, for legal purposes. But there is always a political inclination. I am telling you, Ngogi IG is now a senator today. You see, it depends on how you align yourself politically, and you're right, then you bump into a job here and there. Be that as it may.
Oh, the most unfortunate thing,
but you see, it's the nature of politics.
Right.
What happened with Kibaki is that in as much as they managed to put systems right, there's something that we do very wrong. Every time a government comes in, you have your own set of people that you promise so many things, and you want to put them in positions so that you take over from. There is always a fear of the previous government. There is always a fear that the people you find in office are going to sabotage you. You know, your economic model, your way of, you know, ruling, the way you want to run things.
Yeah.
So there's always this thing that you want to believe that when you come, then you must make so many adjustments and move people across so many offices, you know, so that you put your people and think probably by changing these people, you're trying to manage them and they're going to fear you. That messes up with a lot of things. And I've seen that happens in county governments. And also, you know, I mean, county governments will tell you. When we exited the the Kabogo government, which comes in, so there are a lot of adjustments, people being moved from this office to that office. Probably that person was a guru in that office, knows what exactly happened in that office, can train people in that office, and can do very well in that office. But you see now, you have to showcase your muscle and have to change these people. That really messes up government and systems. So it is important that when you get in, try to work with the people that you found until you realize whether one is helping you or not. But don't be very quick to come and do so many radical changes. By the time, and you see these people get angry and keep quiet, you know, so they'll sabotage you. Okay, because and you see one of the things that officers know is that they are permanently employed.
Yes.
You are elected 5 years, probably you will come back or not come back, so you will still leave them in office.
Yes.
All right, and I've had them, some of them dare say, "Mtaenda tu mtatuacha."
Wow.
So I mean, you have to have systems that people believe in what they do. You know, such that whether there's a change of government or not change of government, things are moving.
Yeah.
You know, and when you come in, don't come and bulldoze things. Just come and learn. You know, go through the induction, see, look at their performance. You know, evaluate their performance and know whether you continue with them, and then make them believe it is not about the party that I'm in. It is not about who brought you here. It is about some work that needs to be done for Kenyans. Once, and you know, funny enough is, if you get to an office where you find...
How about we cut you brief? Okay.
Well, you go to an office where you believe that these people were brought by people who belong to other parties. Do you know, by and large, if you give them confidence, they will believe in you more as opposed to a person who brought them in.
Wow.
You know, they have a point to prove that they can work with you. Yes.
We take that break and then we come back and, you know, ponder some more on that very note. Could be laughing is really a sad note, you know, a sad state of affairs, listening to what is happening in the country. And so even as we get deeper into the conversation, we need to bring ourselves, you know, just call ourselves for meetings and say, you know what, is this a country that we want for, you know, our kids, our children's children? Is this really what our forefathers envisioned when, you know, they fought so hard to, you know, allow them Zungu go back to their home and, you know, just give us this beautiful land for us to work on? Well, it is a conversation that we'll always have for the longest of time until we get the leadership that is right, the leadership that is elected by us, and, you know, it will be a leadership that is vision-oriented, a leadership that speaks for the people, a leadership that is indeed going to change the scenario in the country. So still with me, Anthony Ikonya, the member of County Assembly, Kiambu Township, and we also have Maimuna Mwidau, a political analyst. Mhesh is a cartel in his own way. You know, he just got here and he has a t-shirt of the Kenya Safari Lodges and hotels. I don't know how, and he just came in the other day, but well.
No, as we say, imambo ni kujipanga.
Ni kujipanga. My friend, I am telling you, the level at which we are in as a country, ni kujipanga for sure. So we are here, courtesy of the Kenya Safari Lodges and Hotel, Mombasa Beach Hotel, Voi Safari Lodge, and Gulia Safari Lodge. They all are underneath this, but we are seated at the Voi Safari Lodge because we said, you know, during this tourism week or international tourism week, it's important that we embrace what it is that we have and speak of the flows that we have, so that at least moving forward we can come up with policies that will, you know, bring a change in this game. And therefore, as we celebrate this week, we are sitting at the Voi Safari Lodge because we had to tour the Savo East National Park, and I've had a chance to go for a drive, and we are honored that it's indeed a beautiful place. And above everything, we're calling upon every Kenyan to embrace domestic, you know, tourism, really important. And so we say it once again, Kenya Safari Lodges and Hotel that holds Mombasa Beach Hotel, holds the Ngulia Safari Lodge, and holds the Voi Safari Lodge, where it is that we are thankful that at least we had a chance to enjoy this. Remember, you can always, you know, call them out and make bookings in the event that you want to have a game drive at the Savo East National Park. Voi Safari Lodge's number is 079467 609, and of course that is 1609. Yes, 0794671609. Remember, they hold the Mombasa Beach Hotel, they hold the Voi Safari Lodge, and the Ngulia Safari Lodge. We are seated at the Voi Safari Lodge, and we are also here courtesy of the love that we have received from Pacific Realty. Pacific Realty is coming in to make sure that, you know, it transforms you from being a rent payer to that home owner. It's pretty simple. With as little as, you know, what it is that you have, they'll make an arrangement of making sure that you are able to get a construction partner that will be good enough to accord you a chance to own a home, which is technically what everybody wishes for. And so as we discuss on matters of the country, it is always important that in your own special way, umejipanga. And so back to the conversation that we're having. And we still are struggling to make sure that at least we're able to get leaders that will be friendly enough. And therefore, on that very note, we say all the best to Ezra Chiloba. I hope he takes this mantle and takes it in a good way. We certainly hope that IEBC will be that body that will help us, just go to a free and fair process come 2022. We do not want to hear this conversation of the fact that, well, the dates might be adjusted, but in the event that they are, well, we cross that bridge when we get there. And you speak of aligning yourself politically and being in the right side of, the political game players. And Kimemia the other day affirmed to us that the deep state is in existence. And when he speaks, we also know Kimemia is very instrumental, when it comes to matters politics in the country. And so we will not root that out. For the very first time, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, as the Standard would say, let me read these words, from his traditional combative style of politics against the government, ODM leader today faces an election where he is seen as pro-system, underline that, and statesmanly and less aggressive. Not the Raila that we're used to. But will this new strategy finally deliver the ultimate victory? We're asking.
Well, that's a very interesting piece of analysis. If we look back at our history, and I think we all know there's a time and place for everything. It says in the Bible, it says in the Quran, different times call for different strategies.
Yeah.
Raila Odinga has been with this country for a very long period of time. And he has changed over time. He has done what he needed to do at different times. At a much younger age, Raila was extremely aggressive. He defended the people. He made a lot of sacrifices. And we were able today to get a country which is democratic. There's a lot of space where we can speak our minds comfortably. We have no fear at all. So we've come all the way from a one-party state, including others. But he's been in the lead as a defender of the people. So if you look at the time and the age he is today, Raila has mellowed, but he has achieved a lot. And in the process of becoming a statesman, one needs to behave differently too.
Yeah.
Is he the person who will lead this country to the next level? That is up to the citizen to believe that if Raila was able to do the changes he brought to this country at a much younger age, you can talk there about Orengo too. Orengo was, at a much younger age, was an aggressive person. You can talk about many other leaders. But as people get older, you either mature and change and adapt to the situation, because he is now partly like in government through the handshake. So there's a way now he can articulate those problems of the people without necessarily going into the streets. The time of going into the streets is long gone for him. So now he's working as a statesman where you can negotiate issues and you can articulate your issues quietly in a much more peaceful manner. And I think it has come to pass for everybody to say, yes, Baba has changed, but he has changed for the better. Will that take him to the State House? That's a different story. For those who believe that as a human being, he probably has seen a lot of things, he now can see that he can work in a different mode and deliver the country. So personally, I would say that that's a transition any human being will go through. And it's a beautiful, positive transition. And we need to start seeing Raila in a different light. He defended the people then, he's defending the people now, but in a different way. So we need to look at it broadly. It's not that he's stopped defending anybody. He's still there, but the strategy has changed. I expect to do the same thing when I get a little bit older into his age set. And I will probably be a grandmother maybe twice. So I will not be the same Maimuna who was aggressive like 10 years ago. I'll go rallying for women's rights, haki akina mama, haki yetu. Today I will sit and say, look, the provisions are in the Constitution. We need to implement this. You don't need to shout anymore. So I think that is the transition that Raila Odinga has gone through.
Is it so?
I haven't noticed much change. Papers are not going to change.
Only the fact that the opposition is in bed with government and therefore we're not getting.
Yeah, because I saw Raila in Nyeri the other day, and he's still doing the T-beams and the TRRs. You know, I had him do that. So I don't think there's much of a change in terms of the political person that he is. But I think if anyone is serious about Raila, I don't know how many people, especially in the mountain, are serious about Raila, they need to brand him. I think it's time to brand him. And one thing we all agree is that there's never been a political strategy that has worked in 2 elections, right? Yeah. So there is no way you keep doing the same thing and failing, and then you continue doing the same thing and expect that you're going to. You see, the TRRs and T-beams and whatever you have to come to an end and now start facing real issues. Because if you look at the competitors, they've already gone way ahead and shown that this time around we're talking about economic models. This time around we're talking about the people. This time around we are talking about serious issues. And because they're foreign you, then you also need to package yourself in a way that you also need to look serious and showcase, your economic model and show the people, let's discuss about yesterday. I'm sure that's where you're getting to. Yeah. I looked at Raila yesterday and I sympathize with him. Because if it was a residential meeting that was being done, then he was doing a Nairobi meeting. Okay. Yeah, because everybody that I saw in that meeting lives in Karen, Modaiga. They live in as much as they want to tell us they come from the mountain. Right. And these are people who has no ground. No one in the ground resonates with them.
But they have constantly dictated what happens in the mountain.
What have they? They've not.
Unless you've not been here.
No, I will give you some analysis. If you look at, I don't want to mention names for some obvious reasons, but if you look at those tycoons that we saw, if you go to the ground, apart from those people they've employed, these are people who in their, in their residence back at their home, nobody even goes there. They are feared. These are not people who can call for a meeting in the village and dictate how things will be done. These people move things in Nairobi. They move things in business. They move this. In terms of a real election, nobody resonates with them. So actually what Raila did yesterday was a Nairobi meeting of current residents, Modega residents, Runda residents, but not of the mountaineers. Those business people that we saw do not resonate with anyone on the ground. Let me give you an opposing part of it. Okay. Look at what was happening in Karen yesterday. Karen was a meeting with the business people of Nairobi. But who are those business people? The Gekomba people, the Nyamakima people, the Mbakasi people, those people who are at the ground. Those people who go and influence people for you. But you see, now, I'm saying this with a lot of respect for Raila Amolo Odinga, and tell him, if you need to approach the mountain, then this is not the way you do it. And this is not how you're going to do it. And remember I told you yesterday, time again is of essence. Because this country is big. You need to come, and also there are issues at the coast that needs to be aligned, and there are political squabbles in the coast. It's your backyard. There are things you need to do western. The country is big. So you need a model and people who you live on the ground. And I told you, look at some of these governors who are in the mountain that are his friends. They have their own political lives to salvage. Time is coming for them to also start running. And the ground will tell them different things. Because
wait a minute, Mhesh. Yes. How different was it when Jubilee, when now President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy were trying to sell themselves to the mountain? I mean, the same people were involved.
Exactly. Let me tell you what happened. There were so many people who were running for different posts within. I was running for the MCA. People were running for senators, and they believed in these people. All right, largely they believe in these people. So you look at what happened. They left the Rift Valley. They left the mountain, and they went to other regions. Okay. They would rarely come
because
they've left people on the ground. Side. Yes, it was almost automatic. And again, they have left structures and people who will work the ground for them. Okay. So basically what I'm saying is, if Raila wants the mountain, then you have to make sure that you have people who work the ground for you. All right? And these people that you live in to work the ground for you, remember, these are politicians, again, who have a political life to salvage. And the people on the mountain are telling them a different story. Because let's be very honest. Right now, if we do a critical analysis, 70-75% of the mountain will tell you about Ruto. And Raila had that. So? Raila had that with his own ears, isn't it? In Karatina. Everybody was, even in Githurai. They told him,
that was just...
basically what I'm telling you is, he needs a serious approach. A different approach altogether, not the elite approach. That elite approach may not really take him.
But you also agree that the crowds do not necessarily culminate to votes. And therefore, in as much as people would say UDA does not really mean that is an automatic vote.
Once you get into politics, because I believe you will get into politics one day, you realize that those masses and the way they talk changes people. Okay. People watching at home, they would now think, kumbe huku watu wanataka. The reason why people mobilize people to just come and applaud them and shout in their favor is that to change the minds of other people. You look popular.
Okay.
All right?
Well, as you tell us what the coast is like, the coast region, briefly, your view on the mountain, because this time around they are treating us to so much shock, you know, and surprises.
Mheshimiwa, I was born in the politics. Since childhood, every 5 years I saw an election. And I grew up to the point when I was 18, I was registered by my father. You know, I thought I'd be bought a nice dress, but he registered me as a member of Kano that time. So
you still are,
and I'm
a diehard.
I'm no longer there. The Jogo, we had to leave it at some point. It failed itself, but that's a different story. But in politics, nothing just comes out of the blues when everybody says, "Oh, we want you, we want what have you." It's organized. Everything in politics is organized. And I've been there at the grassroots level myself. I've campaigned on the ground for my father, for my brother, and for myself. So this is not new territory for anybody who's been in the politics, and Mheshimiwa knows that. You can actually mobilize and make it look like this is purely a UDA territory. And I have a lot of respect for Mheshimiwa Ruto because I've worked with him when we were in Kano. He's a good mobilizer too. So is Raila Odinga. You see, they're almost all of them in the same level. They know how to move the masses. Now, when we come to Mount Kenya, the mountain itself, it's quite slippery. And ni mashemegi zetu, by the way. The mountain is always voted as a block on its own. What has happened now is that we have seen various interests within the mountain with different voices. But outside, when they come out of the mountain, they actually are trying to pull themselves back together. Yeah, and you will see that in the last end bit. The mountain votes together, okay? And because the politics has shifted into regional politics to where we were in 1963, you see, Kenyatta, what he did in 1963 is said, we do not want regional governments. We want to bring a unity government. Because he felt maybe the country will go separate everywhere. Now, that did not work. We are back to where we were. Regional agendas. Mountain is saying this is what we want. Western is saying something else. Rift Valley is saying something else. Now, finally, the coast has decided we are also going to sit on the table. So we are forming our own party. And it's all about local interests. In unity government, we would have been able to do that by addressing the issues of every region equally. But no. And we must agree, we are a tribal nation. Our foundation is based on tribe. We have our affiliations within that tribe, allegiance within that tribe, first and foremost. You saw Northeastern. When they wanted a senator, what did they do? They called all the clans. Said we don't even need negotiated democracy. But we don't even need to go and waste money when we know here we are representing ourselves. So hiki kiti tukipatiana wenyewe. Then others will work on it later when the general election comes. So we are back to the basics. And I always say that I have no fear to say we are tribal. I don't feel embarrassed being tribal. I accept we are tribal. But we can use tribalism in a positive manner. We should not use tribalism to deny others. If we accepted that, that's the diversity that we enjoy in this country. And other countries are similar. You can see the United States. Those are states. Those states have different groups of people. The union came by when every state was able to negotiate itself in and protect itself. And that is why the union is stable. The same thing can happen in Kenya. If the mountain wants to demand, the rest of the country will demand. And then let's come to the table and negotiate and then agree to work with this model to bring peace and development so that everybody can share and feel comfortable. So that when I go to the mountain, I don't have to feel like, oh, because I'm coming from the coast, these people will look down on me or they will deny me this. I don't want to be denied. I have no problem for people being whatever tribe they are because nobody chose that. So today I'm very proud as a coastal sitting here and saying, yes, we are going to have a party. And that party will sit on the table. If you're going to have 7 seats, one of them will be from the coast.
The coastal region.
And that seat, we are going to say, from the coast, this is what we want.
Is there a unity of purpose from the coast region?
You can ask that about Western, you can ask that about Ukambani, you can ask that about Mount Kenya.
It's always
if it is because of the other smaller parties, every region has several parties. And people can negotiate around. In politics, there's never an end. It's about interests. Okay? It's about interest. If our interests align, we are going to have a coalition.
All right.
Believe you me. And the same thing happens in other countries like Lebanon. They are based on religion. Their parties are based on religion. But you'll find when they form a government, the Catholics, the Christians, or the Muslims, either the Shias or the Sunnis, they would look at the Catholics saying something that we agree upon. If we agree upon, we form a government. You see, but we still remain with our own parties and our own interests, but we are able to come together and form a government. Netanyahu was kicked out by one party, the Palestinian party. Do you think they agree with the other Israeli parties? No, they don't agree. But they had one agenda. Let's remove Netanyahu. And that was it. So I think we need to mature in terms of our politics and say, okay, we are regional, we are tribal. Let's organize our issues from our region and then sit on the table, negotiate, form a government based on those issues.
All right.
And I think that is the path that will take us maybe in the future where we can, I mean, unity can come in diversity. We don't have to be in the old Kano style. We are all in the same basket and then you cannot have an opposing voice. We can have different diversity of voices here and still continue being one.
Wow. All right. Mahesh, as we come to a close, and this on the mountain aspect, the likes of Korea, who appear to have a voice somehow in terms of speaking or articulating what the mountain is planning, the likes of Jeremiah Kioni, you know, they say, we probably do not need any seat. Some of them say that. We just need our interests met. Korea, on the other hand, says, you know what, it's all right. The deputy is not negotiable. We have to get that deputy position. Have we come to a point where then the mountain, yes, might vote, you know, as a block, but in this time around they say, you know what, we honestly are not interested in the top seat, or we shelve our interest for a moment for the sake of the other regions, but number 2 has to be ours. There's no question about that. How does this compromise the interest of the rest, you know, of the country? Like Maimuna says, it's okay. It's okay because you enjoy the numbers, but then again, it would be fair if you're open enough for the rest of the country to equally enjoy some of the benefits that you have in the previous times.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the mountain for sure, and we need to be very honest with each other. We are not ready for to have a president. It's practically, it's almost impossible. The president will come from some other region. Okay. But be that as it may, we look at our numbers and we negotiate with our numbers and regions, as you say. If you look at what is happening with every serious presidential contender, they are going to regions and they're talking about that region economic model, that region political needs and economic needs and what have you. So the mountain is still there. So we're looking at, let me tell you how governments are formed. Probably I've cared to know about how governments are formed. One, it's about negotiating on the positions that exist. You may not have the presidency, but out of your numbers, you may command the government based on the number of seats that you get. For example, and that's what Maimuna here is saying, that we need to agree. Every region, let's come on the same table. Let's agree. What are your numbers? Where do you come from? What do you bring on board? You know, out of what you bring on board, what do we have? Can we share it out based on numbers or a formula that all of us are going to, so that we bring everybody on board, everyone is on the table, but you see what that tells you is that the mountain will get a great share, you know, based on their numbers. So what happens is, you may not necessarily have, you may have the deputy presidency, for example, you negotiate for, let's get back to what happened between Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Ruto. They shared out government, they agreed, you are the president, I am the deputy president. You will have these ministries, you have these parastatals, you will have this position positions in parliament, and that is where the rubbish shooters came in, when positions in parliament that are from the DP side, the leader majority for parliament and the Senate and various committees, when they were now removed from those committees, that is why they're saying, you give us a road deal, because we had agreed this is your side of government, this is our side of government. So there are so many things to negotiate about a government, and there are so many things that gives people confidence, to the extent that, you see, getting your fair share is about being represented, because those people who represent you takes care of your interest. If there is no representation, then your interests are jeopardized. So it is about how many people you get there, and in what positions do you place them. So the negotiations that are happening right now, Maimuna will tell you that, is about, this is the coast region, these are our numbers, this is our contribution to the economy, we have the marine, we have everything. So if you give us, for example, the tourism docket, it will benefit us more than any, because we are predominantly a tourist destination.
You have gotten the tourism docket.
Yes,
are
yes,
you
they
satisfied?
have,
Yes or no?
Mweshimiwa is using a very interesting word, if you give us. In politics, you don't ask to be given. You demand.
Yes, you demand. You see, I'm making it light for people there. But you see, we know what happens at night and
you demand. And the tourism docket cuts across the whole country, because tourism, it's not just in the coast province.
But hugely.
It's all over the country. And it's hugely because of the beach property. But otherwise, we have sandy areas in Turkana there. No investment has been done. People go to Dubai and do the dunes, yet we have the dunes here.
Yeah.
Those are some of the issues we need to look at. If it is tourism, it is nationally. Okay, we may be given to somebody who's conversant.
You need to give, you give a docket to a person who is probably conversant with a couple of things with that. For example, if you give the Minister for Agriculture and from Coast, how do they understand, the nitty-gritties of agriculture and whatever? So even as you look and you place people, you look at this person may have come from, an agricultural rich place and understands the politics of, because there is a politics of everything. Understand the politics of coffee, the politics of tea, the politics of maize, the politics, you share that way. So I think it is important. But most importantly, what I would urge Kenyans is, I am a Tangatanga person. But I'm saying, let us have everybody on board this time round. So let everybody package them, and let's allow everybody. And as Maimuna has said, let us get regional, let us get tribal, as long as you do it in the right way and for the right reason. Let us negotiate alongside those things, but let's do it for the right reasons and for the good of all of us.
All right, time is not on our side once more. We close it at that. Maimuna Mwidau, political analyst, last speaker Anthony Ikonya, member of County Assembly, Kiambu Township. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. I know there's still more that we can talk about, but I hope that we have some other time to do the same. Kenya Safari Lodges and Hotel, our hosts are right here at the Savo East National Park under Mombasa Beach Hotel and Voi Safari Lodge and Gulia Safari Lodges. So we're saying the Safari Lodges hold those ones that I have mentioned, where we are sitting at the Voi Safari Lodge. And in the event that you have made a decision that you want to tour the country, and for a moment you pick on Savo East National Park, this is the place to stay. This is the place to sleep. You could be coming from Nairobi, and therefore there's no way you're going back to Nairobi on the very same day. Please take advantage of the lodges that we have around the Voi Safari Lodge, and you can always make your booking on 0794 67 and 1609 0794 671609, and you get to enjoy the best of stay here as you get that experience, that game drive. Above everything, we also have the Pacific Realty that has sponsored us journey to this place, and for that reason we are really grateful. Pacific Realty deals with housing and construction, and therefore if you're looking for that construction partner that would accord you a chance to get a home or to own a home at the most affordable rates, good options that they offer, then certainly Pacific is the direction that you look. Their number 0722 111-816, 0722-111-816. As they would say, they give you that chance and they transform you from being a rent payer to a homeowner. It's as simple as that. Check them out. If you are in Nairobi, you can visit their offices, Dune Plaza, first floor, suite number 4B, and that is in Ruai Kangundo Road, and you get the best of the options that they have for you to have this lifetime goal of owning a home. And so we take a quick break. We have a conversation, or we had a conversation conversation, you know, with a specialist on matters relationship. And this time around, it is important that we get to understand how important communication is in the aspect of holding your relationship together. We have the doctors Julius and Jane on standby, so check that out and get to learn some more. Later on, we'll be coming with Chef Ireri, and we get to enjoy the best of Voi Safari Lodge.